Hello and welcome back to Web Cafe AI. We do daily ChatGPT and AI videos for your personal and business life. This is going to be part 2 of our AI automation agency series where we're showcasing different services that you can start selling directly within your agency. In today's video, we're going to be showing you how to build out an AI automation that inputs a manual trigger, therefore allowing you to set up specific email campaigns to specific audiences. Make sure to stay tuned as we're going to learn a ton of stuff when it comes to AI automation, such as setting up a database for a business and also setting up a manual trigger flow, which you could utilize in different AI automations depending on the context. In this specific video, we're going to be setting up a manual trigger, which allows us to give a campaign idea. And then using the database we provide, we're going to be able to build out an AI automated email that's sent to a specific targeted segment. Now, before we jump into this AI automation, we want to point out that this AI automation will pair very nicely with our AI email funnel due to the fact that the purpose of this AI automation is to send out a cold email or a warm email to a segmented audience, therefore allowing this AI automation to come into play as once you send out this AI generated email, you're going to be able to attach it to an AI email funnel and let it do its entire process for the end conversion being set to whatever context that may be. Also, we want to point out, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter here at our Web Cafe AI Marketplace, as this is going to allow you to be notified when new AI automations are pushed forward to this marketplace and therefore allowing you to add more services to your AI automation agency. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin. We are back in our folder here for AI automation agency tutorials. As you see above me, that is the first tutorial here. So we're going to go ahead and create a new one here. And essentially, let's go ahead and name it manual input to email. And we'll do service #2 as we are dealing with the second part of this series. Now, we want to point out that we always share our AI automations within these videos, but for this specific video, since we're going to be dealing with code blocks, when we share this AI automation with you, you're not going to necessarily get the full length of it. You're just going to get the parts that Zapier allows us to share. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off here. We're going to do a trigger of Basecamp. This can be any manual trigger here. This could be in the context of maybe an Excel sheet, new Excel sheet row is inputted. Slack channel, new message is inputted. We like using Basecamp as this has a nice UI for us to mess around with when it comes to manual triggers, as you will see in this video. We're going to go ahead and set the manual trigger to new to do. We're going to go ahead, continue here, and then we're going to go ahead and choose our account, choose our project, which we have identified as Autotasker, choose our to-do set. So in Autotasker, we have a to-do set called to-dos, and then our to-do list, which will be manual trigger. And just for you to understand, this is what it looks like on Basecamp side. Essentially, you'll be able to set up a specific project. And from here, you'll be able to jump into the to-do list that we're dealing with today. And what a manual trigger is in this context is that essentially that this flow will never go or occur unless you put in a to-do task. And why that's important is because that allows us to essentially not only have the will and power to send off this trigger when we want to, but also give input in real time. So the example we're going to be doing today is dealing with setting up a database for a pseudo real estate company. And we're going to essentially set up an email that sends out for a specific listing that we have on our site. So before I input a to-do list as the data point we're going to be using in this AI automation flow, I want to go ahead and show you what I meant by setting up a database. There is multiple ways to set up databases. This is a very simple, but not necessarily intuitive way. There are more complex ways to really reach the back end of an agency or a company in order to get live data that's constantly inputted into said database. This is going to be a very basic one just to show you in this tutorial. So what we did here essentially is that we gave the entire context of this fake real estate company. This fake real estate company is called Blue Sky Properties. We want to give the industry, location, the properties, the mission, the team, Q&A, and then the specific properties are listed here. The reason we gave superfluous data such as a FAQ is because a database could be used in multiple contexts when it comes to an AI automation. For this specific context here, we're just going to be using it for accessing the properties that are within this specific business, as you may have already thought of, or the wheels are turning in your head. Obviously, there is other context where what we're about to show you can be used towards in different AI automations. Therefore, let's go ahead and set up our manual trigger here and provide it with a data point. Let's go ahead and create a email marketing email for the Hillside Haven property. We're going to say give an overview and why the Hillside Haven property is an attractive buy. Now, whatever the context you may be using this AI automation, you may want to proctor the manual input differently. For us, this should be sufficient on what we're trying to achieve today. So all we need to do is hit enter here. We can jump back over to our Zap here. We hit continue here, and then let's go ahead and test it until that data point shows up. Okay, perfect. So as you see, we got the data point here. We can start working with that as we build out this AI automation. So let's go ahead and begin by essentially accessing the database that we created on the document. We're going to go ahead and do a step of Google Docs here. We're going to go ahead and do find document. I'm going to continue here. Make sure we choose the correct account here. For us, it's going to be our courses account. We're going to go ahead and hit continue here. From here, we're going to input the document name. We'll come up here, we'll copy this, input it here. And then if we want to just kind of fine tune this a little bit later, we can go ahead and go to YouTube Zaps, or actually not YouTube Zaps. Let's go back actually to our top folder here and do AI Services Apps. Hit continue here, and then this should find the ID associated with what we're working with. Perfect. So as you see, we got the ID, but if you're familiar with Google Docs and the API we're accessing, it doesn't give the output of the text that we want to access in order to fine tune this whole AI automation flow. In order to do so, we're gonna have to create a code block. So we're gonna do code. We're gonna choose an event of run JavaScript here. We're gonna continue here, and then we just gotta start inputting some code here. So to start off, we need to do our input data. So our input data, we can do text, and then we're gonna find the file text here. So we're gonna do file text, and we can go ahead here, exists but not shown. So that is an issue you run into, but using code, we're able to extract that data. From here, we're just going to go ahead and paste some code here so we don't have to take up too much time in this tutorial. And essentially what we're doing here is that we're fetching the input data of text as we identified the variable here. And then what we're doing is essentially grabbing a specific amount of that data. So in this context, we have the choice between 0 to 10,000 words. So whatever the amount of words that you're dealing with in the database that you create, you're going to want to input that here. So for this context, let's just go ahead and find out real quick. In order to do so, it's a simple Command A, Command C. Just go to a simple site like word counter here. We'll paste in the words here, and we see we're dealing with 708 words. Therefore, when we're inputting the code, we can just do 0 to 1,000. I'm going to go ahead and lower this number. I'm going to go ahead and continue here. Let's go ahead and test this action. Perfect. So as you see here, we went ahead and test that action, and we got all the data associated with what we were trying to retrieve when it comes to this fake real estate company. From here, we can go ahead and add another block. For this block, let's go ahead and do ChatGPT. And we're going to go ahead and do an event of conversation. Hit continue here, and a couple things. First thing is that we're going to want to use a different model here. So instead of 3.5 turbo, we're going to use 3.5 turbo 16K. This is going to allow us to import more data into our user message here. If you just did 3.5 turbo, you could run into glitches and errors due to the fact that it is capped at a certain amount of character limit that the AI is willing to read. Upping it to 16K, circumvents this. Do a different memory key here of just outbrain. Go ahead up here and let's do a user message, and we're going to say based off this business context, do semicolon parentheses, input the output from the JavaScript. We're going to say we are building an email for our leads. The email topic is semicolon parentheses, and then we can go ahead and grab the email topic from the content and make sure we do parentheses around that. So that was our manual trigger there. Then we can go ahead and say generate all relevant information for this email topic. Let's go ahead and do a test action real quick, and let's see if we need to restructure that prompt a little. Okay, so we ran into an issue here. As you see, it went ahead and interpreted the word email and then kind of ran with it and then basically did all the values and all the properties. So let's go ahead and restructure this prompt a little bit. And we're just going to say, there's real restructure. We're going to say data we are looking for. And then we're going to say generate all relevant information for the data we are looking for. And then this should be a complete rewind on what was being outputted here. So we're going to add a 1 here to clear our memory key, come down here, and we're going to go ahead and retest this action. All right, perfect. So as you see here, it went ahead and outputted everything in regards to the Hillside Haven property and gave us a lot of information. If you're familiar with ChatGPT though, we want to make sure that we kind of condense this data a little bit more. This is too much for us to really input for a future email. It's possible, but let's go ahead and be smart and more cost effective here. So we're going to add a parameter block here, and we're going to say parameter max of, let's just give it a max of 8 sentences. So we don't get so much data that when we use future blocks that may encompass GPT-4, we don't raise the price of the underlying AI automation. Okay, so we can go ahead and work with this. This is less data than we had before. I would even push it far as maybe only doing a max of 4 sentences in order to really concise the data here. But for now, this should be sufficient. So let's go ahead and add a new block here. I'm going to do an event of conversation. Continue. We're going to go ahead and say context. We are a real estate company called let's see what we're called again. We are called Blue Sky Properties. From here, we're going to say we are a real estate company called Blue Sky Properties. We are generating an email subject based on, you can semicolon parentheses. We don't really have to separate it here. I'm going to go ahead and input that summarization right here. I'm going to say generate just the email subject line, no text before or after. From here, we're going to go ahead and up our model to GPT-4. We're going to add a memory key here of email sub, and then let's go ahead and continue here and test that action. If this doesn't work because it's too much data, then we're going to have to readjust the previous GPT block. All right, perfect. So it does seem to work here. So we got experience, luxury, and stunning city views at Hillside Haven, a premier Austin property by Blue Sky Properties. We're going to go ahead and add a formatter block here in order to ensure that every single time a subject line comes out, we don't get those nasty little quotation marks here. So we're going to continue here, transform, and we're going to do an effect of replace. Let's go ahead and continue here. The input data will be the conversation that we just received there. And then we're going to go ahead and do find quotation marks. We're going to replace it with empty space. And then now we should have a formatted subject line we can start using in these emails. One thing I want to point out before we continue this tutorial is make sure to like it if you felt like you learned something. And also when it comes to this 3.5 summarization block, just to kind of give you more context of what is occurring here. Essentially, we're grabbing the data that we presented in the document, as we shown earlier. Then we are essentially siphoning through that data based off the manual input topic that we provided. So in this context, it was making an email for Hillside Havens Properties. And then finally, we are parameterizing the output of that data to a max of 8 sentences. Therefore, when we go and continue through this flow and different manual inputs are put in the future, it will siphon the larger contents that we saw in that document into more digestible data for GPT to use later on. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a ChatGPT block here. And this is going to be for the body of the email. New conversation, continue. We're going to say based off this email subject line. We do semicolon, parentheses, and then we can find the formatted subject line here. And then let's go ahead and make sure that the data is congested in here. We're going to say, and the business data. We're going to do semicolon, parentheses. This is going to be the data that we received here through the GPT 3.5 block here. So it has specific data rather than the JavaScript output. We want the specific data that is associated with what we're working with here today. We're going to say generate a body of an email, no text before or after. And then we can go ahead and add a parameter because I don't want this to be too long. For an email, we're going to say max of 5 sentences. All right, so once we inputted the parameters of max of 5 sentences here, we're going to go ahead and move our model up to GPT-4 as we're dealing with more comprehensive outputs. We're going to do email, body, add a couple Ys in order to ensure that the key is new. We'll go ahead and test this action and let's see what it comes up with. Okay, perfect. So as you see here, we got our dear interested buyer. We have the specific contents that's associated with the topic we're dealing with here. And then we got best regards and then your name. So let's go ahead and provide that data there so it understands for future reference what my name is. So we're going to do Corbin Brown. And then we'll go ahead and continue and retest this action. Now, if you want to learn more about formatting this so that the output is HTML. And a lot of times using HTML outputs can be more effective with emails due to the fact that you can bold, you can add links, and it looks, formatting wise, it looks a lot better to the end user. Check out our AI email responder or our AI email funnel on our marketplace, and you'll be able to learn how to format in HTML for outputs when it comes to GPT. But for now, we went ahead and got our output here with our name at the end. We got the specific body to the specific topic we're dealing with, and so on. Perfect. So now that we have our subject line, we have the body of the email, let's go ahead and connect and tie this present completely together. And we're going to go ahead and show you how to send this out automatically through a MailChimp campaign. And what's so great about MailChimp is the ability to access a lot of its API. If you were to use other services, you'd have to do a lot of custom API calls, and that requires an understanding of that service's underlying documentation. So we're going to begin. So we're going to go ahead and add a MailChimp block here. And we're going to go ahead and do an event of create a campaign. I'm going to continue here, and then we want to make sure that our campaign name is a variable. This can't be fixed, and you'll see why later in this tutorial. So we're going to go ahead and give the campaign name our underlying input that we did at the beginning of this tutorial. We're going to choose our audience. So in this context, this could either be a segmented warm list, or maybe this was a list of 100 different potential businesses that you went ahead and imported in MailChimp and then are about to send out a cold email to. For now, we're just going to choose our fake list here of Web Cafe AI. And then we can obviously have a segment here if needed. From now, we're going to go ahead and add our subject, which would be the formatted text we had earlier. We're going to go ahead and add the email content. In this context, it is requesting HTML, so make sure to learn how to do HTML for your outputs. From here though, I'll go ahead and put in our ChatGPT, and then we're going to go ahead and choose our from email address and our from name. For us, we're going to go ahead and input Blue Sky Properties due to the fact that that is the fake real estate company we've been acting as in this tutorial. There, you would want to add a from email address associated with that company. We're just going to put it in our main Web Cafe AI email address here so it works. From here, though, we went ahead and set up all the requested variables that are needed for this block. So we go ahead and continue here. And we go ahead and test that action. Perfect. So as you see here, we went ahead and tested that action and we have created a campaign, but it's not going to automatically send. And if you're dealing with a lot of clients, you don't want to manually go into every single one of their MailChimps and send it for them. So let's go ahead and send it automatically. So we're going to go ahead and add another block here, and we're going to go ahead and find the campaign we just created. So we're going to do find campaign. I'm going to continue here, and then we're going to go ahead and choose the name. And that is why it's so important to have the name be a variable due to the fact that every single one of these flows will be specific to the MailChimp campaign that's being created within that flow. So we're going to go back to the name being the variable that we just created here, and that is coming up here as well, the variable of the original input. And then we're going to be able to find that original input by testing that action. Perfect. So we went ahead and found that campaign, and we got the ID associated with that campaign, which is going to be the big part of this tutorial here. So let's go ahead and do an action of send campaign. So we're going to do send campaign. Perfect. We're going to hit continue here. And then for the campaign, we're going to do custom. From custom, we can go ahead and grab the ID associated if I can find it. As you see here, the campaign ID is right here. I'm going to click that, and then I can hit continue here and send out this campaign. Now, it's very important that you choose custom for this step and you choose a specific ID found within step 10. If you went ahead and proceeded to do campaign and then chose a campaign we just created through this route, this would mean that every single time this AI automation were to incur, it would send it through the same campaign with the same name and therefore cause issues in later dates. Great. Now you know how to set up a database for a company, and you also know how to use a manual trigger when it comes to AI automation. One quick note on the database part, that is a very simple way to do it. There is a lot more complex ways that are more intuitive that deal with more inputting of live data, such as Zapier tables and so on. But we just want to show you a very simple way to set up a database. And from there, you're going to be able to use it for a lot of other use cases when it comes to AI automation. Make sure to like the video if you like the content you're seeing here. And if you want to learn more about AI automation and AI automation agencies, check out the playlist at the end of this video as we're diving into everything that is involved with running an AI automation agency. But without further ado, I'll see you in the next video.